Hello family. Welcome to AfriVibe Stories, your home for captivating African tales. Hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. Malik pushed open the door of Amotekun Electronics just as late afternoon sunlight slanted through dusty glass panes, painting the aisles in gold. The familiar jingle of the bell overhead felt like a summons, as though fate itself had called him back to this modest storefront where he first learned to solder wires and program microcontrollers. He'd walked these narrow corridors countless times, hunting capacitors, resistors, spare cables, yet today every shelf seemed to hum with possibility. In his backpack lay the fruits of months of toil, a custom smartwatch he'd designed and built for his girlfriend, Zina, the influencer whose every post glittered with luxury. At 28, Malik didn't look wealthy. His wiry frame was clad in a faded t-shirt and a hoodie whose pockets held soldering tools instead of secreted cash. His black jeans were frayed at the knees from crouching over circuit boards on the concrete balcony of his one-room flat. But within him burned a conviction more potent than status symbols, that clever code and honest craftsmanship could change the world, one gadget at a time. And tonight, he'd prove it. "Evening, sir," grunted the shopkeeper, adjusting his spectacles as he eyed Malik's backpack. "Parts again." Malik smiled, pulling out the slim silver box wrapped in tissue paper. "Actually, I'm here to finish up a prototype. I need replacement charger ports and some microscrews." The shopkeeper arched an eyebrow but nodded, disappearing into the back room. Malik let his gaze drift to his reflection in the display case. Solemn brown eyes behind tortoiseshell frames, hair tousled from hours bent over coding. He thought of how Zina's laughter used to light up his world, and how just 2 weeks ago she'd scoffed at his sacrifice. Tonight, he hoped, would be different. Back home, the tiny flat felt colder than usual. Malik cleared the desk beneath his laptop, where tangled wires and half-assembled boards lay in a restless jumble. He set down the charger ports, opened his toolbox, and slid the old port out of the watch's slim frame. One by one, he replaced components, tightening each screw until the case snapped shut with a soft click. He clasped the black silicone strap around his wrist for calibration. Every sensor glowed to life under his touch. He held the watch up to the window, as though offering it to the world. Within its glass face pulsed code lines he wrote at dawn, mapping out features no off-the-shelf device could match. Live stream heart rate tracking, hydration reminders syncing to her calendar, discrete haptic alerts for manager calls. He'd even programmed a subtle glow to indicate new sponsorship opportunities, a nod to Zina's life in brand deals. At 7 p.m. sharp, he stepped onto the rooftop of Tiana's Bistro, the open-air cafe where they'd shared their first date amid hanging lanterns and warm jollof aromas. String lights overhead twinkled like stars, the city's hum a gentle accompaniment. Yet his heart thundered so loudly he barely heard the soft clink of her arrival. Zina stood at the railing, phone in hand, scrolling through her feed. The golden light haloed her braided ponytail, the designer jumpsuit hugging every curve. She looked up, eyes flicking over his worn jacket and canvas sneakers before settling on his hopeful smile. "Babe, you're late," she said, voice bright. "Traffic," he lied, settling into the chair across from her. He placed the gift box on the table, smoothing the ribbon with trembling fingers. "I got you something." Zina's dark brows lifted as she nudged the box. It rolled toward her, the ribbon's bow half undone. She tore it off and tossed it onto the floor, as though it were worthless. Malik's throat tightened. She peeled back the tissue paper, revealing the watch's sleek face. "You built this yourself?" she asked, tracing the edges with a painted nail. He nodded. "I programmed it to track your live streams, to remind you to hydrate, to sync with your sponsors' calendars. It's..." She laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the soft music drifting from the cafe speakers. "Malik, come on. This isn't even an Apple Watch. I need status. I need..." She glanced at her phone, thumbs already typing. "Something that looks premium." Malik plunged a hand into his pocket, heart sinking. "I thought you'd..." Zina stood abruptly, knocking her chair back. "I'm late for a collab call," she said over her shoulder as she stormed off. Her heels clicked away before he could plead. He stared at the empty table, at the ribbon's frayed ends. Around him, other couples chatted, oblivious. The string lights overhead danced, indifferent. His world had shrunk to the box in front of him, a testament to love she no longer valued. Hours later, Malik returned to his flat, hands shaking. The city lights through the single window felt distant, untouchable. He sank onto the worn cushion of his desk chair, burying his face in his hands. The watch lay on the desk, its screen dim. It had been his masterpiece, yet she'd dismissed it like a cheap trinket. After a long silence, he lifted his head. Tears glimmered in his eyes, but he blinked them away. The blinking cursor of his laptop beckoned. Lines of code awaited his attention. Code never mocked him. Code never demanded more than he could give. Code never abandoned him. He swiveled the chair back toward the screen and reopened his TrueLink project, a platform he'd begun building to expose fake influencers and bot-ridden profiles. He typed with renewed purpose, fingers flying over the keys. If she craved only flash, he would craft something that shone brighter, an empire of truth in a world of mirrored illusions. The next morning, sunlight slanted across his desk as Malik refreshed his email. A message from Daryl, his childhood friend, blinked at the top. TrueLink beta looks fire, bro investors lining up. You ready to change the game? Malik smiled, a spark in his chest. He clicked reply. Building something real. Let's do this. He slid the custom watch onto a hook by the window, an artifact of dreams deferred, but his gaze turned back to the screen. TrueLink's dashboard scrolled with data, accounts flagged, bot networks unraveled, fake follower farms laid bare. Across town, Zena's morning routine unfolded in mirrored glamour. Her phone lit up with notifications, but her smile faltered. Brands were pulling ads. Followers were dropping. Comments accused her of scandal by association. How could you support Raymond? When will you learn? Bye, Zena. She swiped through the chaos, heart pounding. In desperation, she typed a DM to Malik. I need your help. Then deleted it. Pride, she realized, could burn even brighter than shame. Later that evening, Malik packed up his laptop and stepped out for air. The rooftop of his building offered a view of endless lights flickering against the night sky. He lifted the handmade watch into view, its dark face catching moonlight. It felt heavy in his hand, not because of its weight, but because of what it represented: love misplaced, courage rediscovered. He let the ribbon slide through his fingers and out the door. The wind caught it, carrying it away into the tapestry of night. Malik set his jaw and looked forward, toward lines of code waiting at dawn, toward investors and interviews, toward a future he would build for himself. Some gifts, he realized, are meant not to be kept, but to set you free. And in that freedom, he would find his true worth. Zena awoke to the familiar chime of her phone's alarm at exactly 7 a.m. She stretched luxuriously across the plush pillows of her downtown Lagos apartment, the morning light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows like a spotlight on her designer silk sheets. Before her feet even touched the marble floor, her thumb was already scrolling through last night's engagement metrics. 3 new brand inquiries. 2,000 additional followers. A top comment praising her ultimate glow. She savored the numbers with a small, triumphant smile, every digit a quantifiable measure of her worth. Breakfast could wait. First, she would craft today's perfect post, a yawning shot of her in a fluffy robe, coffee cup in hand, captioned, "Blessed mornings hot beverage sparkles #ad," to remind her audience that even her daily routines had a hint of glamour. Within an hour, Zena had transformed her living room into a miniature studio. A ring light, a marble prop table stacked with skincare products, and a handheld mic for crisp audio. She filmed a 60-second skincare tutorial, her voice light and lilting as she layered serums with methodical precision. "Remember, lovelies," she purred to the camera. "Sun protection is non-negotiable." She paused between takes to check her reflection in the window's glass, ensuring her contour and highlighter caught the right angle of the light. When she finally hit upload, the post went live with a flourish of hashtags: #SkincareGuru, #GlowUp, #ZenaMarieOfficial. Within minutes, the likes ticked upward, a digital applause that fueled her adrenaline. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away in a cramped co-working space, Malik sat alone under the glow of dual monitors. TrueLink's code filled one screen, lines of Python and JavaScript intertwined like DNA, each function a promise of transparency. On the other, a live dashboard scrolled through flagged accounts, hundreds of influencers and micro-celebrities whose meticulously curated personas were exposed as illusions. Bought followers, rented luxury props, rented apartments posing as penthouses. Malik adjusted his glasses and tapped the Deploy button. The platform's new Engagement Authenticator went live, promising to differentiate genuine audience interaction from bot-driven hype. There was no ring light here, no applause, just the silent satisfaction of building something real. By mid-afternoon, Zena was off to a Dubai brunch experience at the city's swankiest rooftop lounge. A private jet captioned, courtesy of Raymond Chandler official, had landed just an hour earlier, and paparazzi paddled toward the tarmac like sharks scenting blood. Zena emerged from the sleek aircraft arm in arm with Raymond Chandler III, tall, impeccably dressed in a crisp white linen suit, his dark sunglasses glinting in the sun. His perfectly coiffed hair and Armani loafers were the sort of flash that translated well to camera lenses. Zena's followers watched in real time as she laughed, her Cartier bracelets catching the light, her bronzed skin glowing against Raymond's pale shirt. For a moment, everything looked seamless. Champagne towers, yacht antiseptic whiteness, golden smiles. Status, she thought, was more intoxicating than any drink. Yet beneath the filtered facade, the cracks were beginning to show. Zena noticed a fellow influencer, Nadine, shoot her a furtive glance when Raymond's Dubai brunch experience #trended. Nadine, who knew enough about Dubai's event rentals to spot the telltale watermark in the promotional backdrop. Later, in a private group chat of rising stars, whispers rippled, "Is he legit? I heard his crypto fund is under investigation." Zena brushed off the rumors with practiced ease, responding in the group chat, "As long as it looks good online, it is good. Keep your eyes on your own feed's winking face." But the unease lingered, like a subconsciously raised eyebrow in a mirror, difficult to ignore once you'd noticed it. Back at TrueLink headquarters, an open-plan office Malik had rented with seed money from a local angel investor. The Engagement Authenticator release triggered a surge of activity. Notifications pinged on Malik's phone, 10,000 new hits this hour, 500 flagged profiles, press inquiries inbound. He sketched a quick text to Daryl, "Morning, reminds me why we built this." Then he leaned back, idly tapping his pen against his notebook. In the margins, he'd drawn a crude logo, an eye inside a checkmark. Truth, he mused, was both lens and verdict. Meanwhile, Zena scrolled through her mentions and saw one that froze her blood. A TechWire official had retweeted TrueLink's exposé on top 10 fake crypto influencers to avoid. And there, under number 3, was a glamorous photo of Raymond Chandler III, complete with his rented Aston Martin posing in the background. His face looked exactly as it did in Zena's Dubai brunch reel. Her breath caught. A slow burn of panic crept through her veins. She tapped the notification, but the retweet had already been amplified by hundreds of thousands. Comments erupted, "Caught in the act. My girl Zena, you okay? Should have stuck with Malik's DIY tech." Zena's manicured fingers trembled as she closed the app. Behind the laughter and luxury was a skeleton of deceit. Documents showing Raymond's properties were all short-term leases. His fancy cars were from rental agencies listed in the fine print. The realization hit her like a tidal wave. Her golden world was built on rented backdrops and hollow promises. She hailed a ride to her apartment, ignoring the DMs piling up. Influencer friends seeking an explanation, brand managers issuing ultimatums, legal teams demanding immediate statements. She needed to regroup. She needed help. In the back of her mind, she thought of Malik, of his sincerity, the way his eyes lit up when he explained a new feature in his watch prototype. Embarrassment and regret warred in her chest. But it was pride that won out. She couldn't bear to face him after what she'd said. Instead, she locked herself in her bedroom and drafted a damage control tweet. "Hey everyone, working through some unpleasant news. We'll post an update soon. Thanks for your patience. Black Heart." She published it, hoping her followers would suspend judgment long enough for her to salvage the narrative. Meanwhile, Malik's phone buzzed again. This time, it was an invitation to speak at TechCrunch Disrupt Lagos. He blinked at the message. TrueLink's #engagement authenticator is a game-changer. Interested in a panel slot? He tapped his reply without hesitation. Count me in. Then he paused and stared at the screen, thinking of Zena. He'd seen her mocking his homemade gift, he'd seen her draped in diamonds, chasing after a facade. Part of him ached with residual hurt. But that part was overshadowed by something stronger. The conviction that his mission, to expose counterfeit fame, was just beginning. Later that evening, Zena reclined on her velvet chaise longue, staring at the glow of her notifications. She'd managed a brief phone call with one major sponsor, who threatened to reallocate funds unless she could substantiate her association with Raymond. Another brand paused an upcoming campaign. The only constant was silence from her manager, who, until now, had handled all her crises. For the first time, Zena felt utterly alone in a room that had once echoed with applause. She rummaged in her bag for her phone and typed a message to Malik. Please. I need advice. I'm lost. Her finger hovered over send. She erased the text, then rewrote it. Malik, can we talk? It's important. Finally, she pressed send and held her breath, only to see the message remain marked seen without reply. The status update tormented her more than any public critique. He had seen her plea and chosen silence. In his rented office, Malik watched the Lagos skyline through large glass panels. TrueLink's dashboard glowed on his laptop screen. Speakers rehearsed their introductions for the Disrupt panel. A half-empty water bottle sat on the desk. His phone lay face up, Zena's message glaring at him like a test he wasn't sure he wanted to pass. He closed his eyes and let out a slow breath. Some part of him, the part that still cared, wanted to reach out to offer solace. But all he felt was the relentless momentum of his purpose. To rebuild, to prove that authenticity trumped all. Outside, the city hummed with restless energy. Somewhere in the distances of light and glass, Zena wrestled with her reflection. And in the quiet between his breaths, Malik realized that sometimes the most powerful truth is the one you refuse to share. Zena woke to the muted glow of her phone at 6:45 a.m., heart pounding before she even opened her eyes. Overnight, her mentions had ballooned into a storm of outrage and pity. Sponsors withdrawing partnership offers, followers slipping away in droves, and worst of all, messages from well-wishers she barely recognized. She lay tangled in white silk sheets, her breath shallow, as the reality settled in. The facade she'd built, yacht shots, rented mansions, rented status, had crumbled beneath her. The world saw her as complicit in Raymond's scam, not as the victim she'd convinced herself she was. Every ping from her phone felt like a hammer striking at her dignity. She forced herself up, dressing in a muted gray blazer that felt foreign against her skin. In her bathroom mirror, she practiced a confident smile, but her eyes betrayed the tremor in her lips. She dialed her manager, Monique, whose voicemail greeted her with a chirp. Hey love, I'm on the 9 a.m. strategy call. Ring you back. Zena pinched the bridge of her nose. Another voicemail took its place. Two more, each also urgent, each also unanswered. The silence stretched, mocking her. She sent a terse text, call me. Now. Downstairs, she brewed coffee mechanically, the aroma failing to soothe her nerves. She tried to film a quick apology video, I'm doing better, love you all. But when she played it back, her voice cracked. She deleted the clip, swallowed hard, and stared at the unedited footage. Tears leaking over flawless contour, vulnerability bleeding through her meticulously crafted persona. She couldn't post that. Not when every like, every comment, now felt like salt in an open wound. By 10 a.m., Zena had logged into a video call with Prism Brands, a cosmetics company she'd partnered with for a six-figure launch. The muted rectangle of her manager appeared on screen first, Monique's expression strained. Zena, they're cold, Monique whispered. They want a clean break. They said it's too risky to be associated with you right now. Zena's chest tightened. Can we negotiate a reduced package? At least get me some runway. Monique shook her head. They've reallocated the budget. I'm sorry. Zena clutched the desktop edges, whispering, "This can't be happening." She scrolled through her calendar, marking cancellations, a gala appearance, a webinar, a paid live stream. With each strike, her calendar emptied like a tomb. Meanwhile, across town, Malik's world was quiet. His morning began at dawn on the balcony of his modest flat, the sky in soft shades of orange, the buzz of generators drifting up from street level. He sipped milky tea and reviewed TrueLink's analytics on his laptop. Lines of code he'd written 2 months ago were filtering through thousands of profiles, flagging suspicious accounts, mapping bot networks. Today he would introduce a new feature, Live Authenticity Score, which assigned each influencer a real-time trust rating based on engagement patterns. He clicked Commit, then leaned back, expecting the usual trickle of data. Instead, the numbers moved too slowly, the traction too slight. He frowned. With every deployment, he dreamed of exponential growth. In reality, he got a modest uptick, no headlines, no investor emails, just another morning of incremental change. At noon, his phone vibrated. Daryl, his best friend since primary school, was outside the flat, here to check on him. Daryl bounded up the stairs carrying 2 sodas and a bag of fried plantain. "Bro, I came by because you ghosted me this week. You okay?" Malik offered a wan smile. "Just debugging." They sat on the balcony, legs dangling over the edge. Daryl handed him a soda and eyed the laptop. "How's TrueLink? You hitting the big leagues yet?" Malik shrugged. "I rolled out the authenticity score yesterday. Got maybe 1,000 page views. Not exactly viral." Daryl shook his head, sipping his drink. "They laughed at you when you built that watch, bro. Now you're rewriting the rules. You think small time." Malik glanced at the skyline, steel towers glinting in the sun. "I'm focused on substance, not noise." Daryl nodded. "I get it. But sometimes you need noise to amplify the substance." Back in her apartment, Zena stared at a blank contract on her screen, an offer to become a host on a new lifestyle network, but the pay was half of what she'd earned last year. She considered accepting, her pride warring with desperation. She typed a reply, "Send contract. I'll review." She hit send before she could reconsider. As the email whooshed off, she realized she was lowering her standards, and that felt worse than losing them. That evening, Malik stayed late at the co-working space. The lights dimmed around him as other startups packed up and left. He was alone by 9 p.m., the hum of air conditioners and distant traffic his sole companions. He stared at the flickering cursor in his code editor. Doubt squirmed in his chest. Was he chasing a pipe dream? Would TrueLink remain another half-finished project in a long line of prototypes? He rubbed his eyes, then clicked open a news alert. Dubai crypto king Raymond Chandler III under fire. Investigation launched. His pulse quickened. He opened a second tab to the Dubai Financial Times, scanning the article. Investigators had uncovered shell companies, misappropriated funds, and charges pending. He toggled back to TrueLink's dashboard. His algorithm had already flagged Raymond's profiles with a 93% inauthenticity rating. Bot followers, rent-a-car shoutouts, tagged locations that didn't match metadata. He exported the data in CSV form and began drafting a blog post. Line by line, he annotated the evidence, dates, follower count anomalies, on-location inconsistencies. With each keystroke, adrenaline surged through him. By 11 p.m., he had a complete exposé ready. Case study, Raymond Chandler III, How Bots and Rentals Built a Fake Empire. He posted it on Medium, then tweeted the link with a brief caption, "When influence meets illusion. Hashtag TrueLink exposes hashtag Raymond Chandler III." He closed his laptop, heart hammering, and headed home. He nodded, jotting notes. "Tell me about a time you managed a crisis." Zena inhaled slowly, recalling the humiliating live stream meltdown. "When my last sponsor pulled out, I organized an impromptu apology campaign on social channels. I drafted talking points, managed comments, and coordinated with PR. It wasn't perfect, but I learned that authenticity and swift acknowledgement can restore some faith." She risked a glance at him. His expression remained unreadable. Malik tapped the pen again. How would you handle promoting TrueLink if someone accused it of hypocrisy? Zena's heart hammered. She straightened. I would welcome scrutiny. I'd encourage third-party audits, share our methodology, and invite user feedback sessions. If we falter, we own it. That level of honesty is the backbone of credibility. Her voice gained strength as she spoke, fueled by her own hard-earned lessons. He leaned back, folding his hands. You're very direct. His gaze sharpened, assessing. And what makes you think you can adapt to startup pace? We iterate hourly, launch features weekly, and handle global media inquiries daily. Zena felt sweat bead at her hairline. She forced a steady smile. I've thrived under pressure. In my last role, I balanced 5 sponsors, multiple product launches, and influencer partnerships. I can pivot quickly and learn on the fly. Malik closed his folder softly. Last question, if you discovered a colleague manipulating engagement data to meet targets, what would you do? Zena's throat went dry. She met his eyes. I'd report it immediately. I'd gather evidence, alert management, and recommend we address it transparently. Allowing deception undermines everything TrueLink stands for. She paused. I've been on the other side of that lesson. Silence fell. The only sound was the low hum of the building's HVAC. Malik regarded her for a long moment, then offered a small nod. He tucked his pen behind his ear. Thank you, Zena. That will be all. Zena's stomach lurched. She stood, extending her hand. Malik shook it firmly. We'll be in touch. His tone was polite. No warmth, no recrimination. She turned to leave, chest tight with anticipation and fear. At the door, she paused. Mr. Owolabi, thank you for your time. His back was to her as he stacked papers on the table. Without looking up, he replied, You're welcome. The cool detachment in his voice stung more than any harsh word ever could. In the elevator, Zena pressed the close button repeatedly, willing the walls to move faster. The doors opened, and she stepped into the lobby. The receptionist glanced up. All done. Zena nodded, cheeks damp. She offered a wavering smile and walked out into the cacophony of city traffic. Outside, traffic roared. She hailed a cab, sliding onto the leather seat, staring at her reflection in the tinted glass. She pictured the boardroom, her portfolio strewn across the table, Malik's inscrutable gaze, the echo of her own stammering voice. She pressed her fingers to her lips, tasting bitterness and regret. By evening, Zena sat alone at home, the rejection email unread in her inbox. She stared at the cracked screen of the smartwatch Malik had once given her, a silent reminder of how he valued substance over status. She placed the device on her desk gently, as though it might shatter if handled roughly. Every notification that evening rang hollow. Thanks for interviewing, but her reputation was still in tatters, her pride still in shards. Meanwhile, in the TrueLink office, Malik settled behind his desk, reviewing market projections and press clippings. Carmen, his CEO, knocked and entered with fresh coffee. Interview went well, she asked. He looked up, eyes calm. She was honest, he replied. She handled tough questions admirably. Carmen raised an eyebrow. So we'll hire her? Malik shook his head. Not this role. But I admire her growth. He paused. She taught me more about authenticity than any study ever could. That night, Malik drafted an internal memo announcing their next hiring round. He described qualities to seek: integrity, resilience, courage to admit mistakes. He read his own words, qualities Zena had embodied when facing him across the table. He added a footnote to himself: truth tempered by grace has the power to heal, even when trust has been broken. In her apartment, Zena powered down her laptop and leaned back against the headboard. The ceiling above her was silent, unjudging. She closed her eyes, breathing in the stillness. Tomorrow, she would pick up the pieces once more. She would rebuild, authentically, honestly, without shortcuts. And though she'd walked into TrueLink's lair seeking a lifeline, she emerged with something unexpected, a renewed conviction that genuine worth was forged in the crucible of failure, not in the glittering trappings of status. Xena awoke just as the early light of dawn filtered through her bedroom curtains, painting pale stripes on the floor. Her chest tightened with the memory of yesterday's interview, Malik's steady gaze, the glass-walled boardroom, the final "we'll be in touch" that echoed like a verdict. She pressed her palm against the cold marble of her nightstand and inhaled, steadying herself. This morning, she decided, would not be about chasing apologies or begging for second chances. It would be about moving forward. She dressed in the same gray blouse she'd worn to TrueLink, its tailored lines a reminder of the hope she'd carried in, now a talisman of newfound resolve. Before leaving her apartment, she retrieved the cracked smartwatch from her jewelry box. The glittering screen still bore the memory of Malik's code, but its frame was warped by her careless toss long ago. She stared at it in silence, then placed it face down on her dresser. It was time to stop replaying the past. Downstairs, she summoned a ride to Victoria Island. As the driver navigated through early traffic, she closed her eyes and let the city's hum wash over her. She pictured herself in the past months, the thrill of status, the bitter tumble of scandal, the hollow regret in every sponsor's "we wish you well." Pride had pushed her to Dubai for a damage control tour of photo ops. Now, she was returning home, not in disgrace, but in quiet determination. TrueLink's sleek building rose before her like a monolith of transparency. She felt a flicker of nerves but refused to let it tether her to old insecurities. She disembarked and approached the lobby, where the same neutral receptionist glanced up. "Back to return those slides?" the receptionist asked, nodding toward Xena's portfolio peeking from her bag. Xena forced a soft smile. "Actually, I'm here to observe today's public demo, if that's possible." The receptionist studied her for a moment, then tapped a few keys. "You have clearance. The demo starts in conference room B at 10 a.m. Grateful, Xena followed the glass corridor to room B. Inside, rows of chairs faced a stage where TrueLink engineers arranged laptops and projectors. Behind them, a giant screen displayed the TrueLink logo alongside the tagline, "Truth in every connection." She slipped into a back row seat and took a deep breath. Today's demo would show TrueLink's new feature, Community Guard, an AI-driven tool that not only flags bots but suggests authentic micro-influencers to brands seeking genuine engagement. As the presentation began, Malik stepped onto the stage, applause rippling through the room. He wore a crisp button-down and dark slacks, no tie, no suit jacket, his confidence emanating from every pore. He greeted the audience with warmth. "Good morning. Today we elevate authenticity to actionable insights." His voice carried easily, each sentence precise, his passion evident. He clicked through slides showing data visualizations and live demos that illuminated how Community Guard worked. Brands in the audience nodded, impressed by the AI's ability to sift through millions of accounts and highlight real engagement. Halfway through the demo, Carmen appeared beside Malik, his CEO, confidant, and, as Xena knew from office rumors, more than that. Carmen, dressed in a tailored blazer and jeans, embodied the bridge between corporate polish and startup grit. Malik introduced her, Carmen Lee, the architect behind our community algorithms. They exchanged a quick smile, one of deep respect and companionship. Xena watched as Carmen spoke confidently about user testing protocols, then handed the microphone back to Malik. Their synergy was seamless. From her seat in the back, Xena felt a pang of something unfamiliar, not regret or longing, but admiration. She remembered how she once dismissed Malik's homemade watch, demanding status over substance. Now, he stood before a room of industry leaders, building empires of truth in a world awash with illusion. She realized that her old dreams, of viral fame and curated perfection, were like rented cars and rented mansions, flashy, but empty. When the demo concluded, Malik opened the floor for questions. A marketing director from a major cosmetics brand stood up. "How do you guard against false negatives? Real influencers sometimes have small networks." Malik nodded. "Great question. Community Guard uses multi-factor analysis, engagement consistency, peer network validation, direct follower interactions, to minimize false flags. We've tested it with focus groups across 5 markets, achieving a 97% accuracy rate. Applause followed. He invited the marketing director for a one-on-one demo after the session. As the audience began to file out, Xena stayed seated, gathering her courage. She had no right to demand attention, but she needed this moment of closure. When the room emptied to just a handful of staff, she rose and approached the stage. Malik and Carmen were packing laptops. "Excuse me," she said softly. Malik looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. Carmen stepped aside, offering Xena a polite nod. Xena's throat was dry. "Thank you for letting me observe." She swallowed. "Your work, it's incredible." She paused, searching for words that didn't sound like apology or pleading. "I admire what you've built." Malik inclined his head. Carmen's expression was warm but guarded. Malik folded his arms. "I'm glad you could see it firsthand." His tone was neutral, no old tenderness, but no bitterness either. Xena felt the weight of unspoken history between them but stood firm. Carmen cleared her throat. "Xena, would you like a guided tour of the user testing lab? We're onboarding new brands tomorrow, and I think you'd find the process fascinating." Xena met Malik's gaze. He nodded once, granting permission without a word. Carmen gestured toward a side corridor. They walked together, passing rows of desks staffed by analysts in casual attire, each watching screens of real-time influencer feeds. The lab buzzed with focused energy. Xena watched Carmen point out how test algorithms flagged a suspicious account with 200,000 followers but no genuine interactions. Xena's pulse quickened as she recognized the significance. This was the evolution of her own journey from facade to authenticity. After the tour, they paused by a window overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. Carmen turned to Xena. "You're welcome here anytime, no strings attached. If you ever want to share your insights on influencer relations, my door's open." Xena nodded, moved by the sincerity in Carmen's offer. As she walked back toward the lobby, the finality of the moment sank in. She passed Malik one last time. He was on a call, headset in place, discussing a partnership with a global ad agency. His profile was crisp against the backdrop of monitors. Xena paused, whispering the words that had formed in her heart days ago. "He used to build things for me. Now he builds empires." The reception desk was empty, the lobby silent. She collected her bag, took one more look at TrueLink's living wall, and stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun. Her phone buzzed, a message from Jordan Crest, the PR executive. "Would you like to guest host a panel on authenticity at TechNext conference next month?" Xena tapped out a reply. "Yes, let's discuss details." Her fingers hovered before hitting send, then she tapped firmly. A smile curved on her lips. This was a world she could step into on her own terms. That evening, Xena sat at a neighborhood cafe, journaling ideas for the panel. How to guide brands toward genuine collaborations, how influencers could rebuild trust through transparency. Her black coffee steamed beside her notebook, the city's hum a soft rhythm in the background. She paused, recalling her final glimpse of Malik and Carmen working side by side. In that moment, she accepted that some doors close so others may open. Meanwhile, Malik returned to his office late that night. The glow of monitors painted his features in cool light. He reviewed user feedback graphs for Community Guard, noting rising subscription curves and brand retention metrics. Carmen appeared at his door. "Great turnout today," she said quietly. "And Xena's here at the cafe across the street." "I dropped her PR invite." Malik exhaled, a mixture of relief and respect in his eyes. "She's growing into something remarkable." He paused. "Closure is a powerful thing." Carmen smiled. "Indeed. No need for reconciliation when there's mutual growth." In her apartment, Xena reviewed her draft slides for the TechNext panel, the final slide reading, "Authenticity, your greatest asset." She closed her laptop. Content. She ran a hand through her hair and gazed at the dark-framed photo on her desk. Herself at her peak, radiant in a rented mansion. She reached forward and turned it face down. The era of facades, she decided, was over. As Lagos lights blinked on across the water, two lives moved in parallel. Malik and Carmen building a future of truth, Xena forging her own path of authenticity. No reunion loomed on the horizon, no rekindled romance awaited. Instead, each walked forward, separate but whole, guided by lessons born of failure and forged in the fires of genuine growth. Some people leave you to chase the spotlight, Xena whispered to the empty room, echoing the words she'd once heard. Not knowing you're the one who'll set the world on fire. And in that whisper lay her final closure, a promise to herself that her flame would burn on its own. The end. Enjoyed this story? Hit like, subscribe, and join the AfriVibe family. Your support keeps our stories coming. See you soon.